Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 5th of March. This is AI with Kyle. We're going to be running through the latest AI news of the day, plus taking live audience questions from TikTok, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. So hello, everybody who's joining us this morning. And all of these edited videos will be tidied up and put on the YouTube later today, as well as the content found in the newsletter. You can sign up at aiwithkyle.com. So let's jump straight in. The ongoing saga of Anthropic, the creators of Claude, and the Pentagon and OpenAI. So the context of this is last summer, 4 AI companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, and xAI, took $200 million contracts from the Pentagon, the Department of War. Over the last couple of months, Anthropic have been pushing back and saying, no, there are certain lines that we will not cross, so-called red lines. And last Friday, this led to them basically being kicked out, being told, you are a supply chain risk, a designation normally leveled on foreign connected companies. So companies like Huawei, for example, connected to Chinese intelligence services. This was the first time an American company had been labeled thusly. Then America started bombing Iran a couple of hours afterwards. So the whole situation has been very up in the air. OpenAI head Sam Altman immediately jumped in far too quickly, very quickly jumped in and said, oh, we'll do it. So we will take over the Anthropic contract, which is not a good look. So over the last week, a lot of people have been leaving ChatGPT. We think the number of people is 1.5 million. So apparently Claude has 1.5 million new subscribers, which is a lot, but not that many. In the larger scheme of things, remember there are 900 million users of ChatGPT. 900 million. That is almost a billion people, almost, what's that, 1/16 of humanity. A lot of people. So, no, 1/6 of humanity, excuse me, terrible at maths. We have a new update, which is Anthropic are back into negotiations. So a couple of days later, they've gone back to the Pentagon and they're trying to hash out a new deal. Now, this is what I said last week, because remember Trump's tweet, Trump's Truth Social post, I don't know what you call them over there, I'm not on Truth Social, funnily enough, talked about how they're going to be immediately removed from all federal offices, but we're going to give you 6 months to disentangle yourself from the Department of War in particular, which is fair because it was actively being used in the strikes on Iran. So you can't just yank it an hour before you start bombing a country. So at that time, I said this 6 months is like the TikTok ban. This is basically the government saving face, saying, getting to publicly denounce a company, getting to stomp their feet and yell and make it look like they are a force to be reckoned with, whilst at the same time leaving room for negotiation. So you can publicly throw a temper tantrum, you can publicly ban them, you get to save face in that way, but you say, okay, we've got a 6-month period in which we are going to transition you out. This is what happened with TikTok. So there was TikTok ban, we're going to ban you, we're going to ban you. They kept pushing it back, it kept getting nudged back while it was being sorted out. There were, I think, 3 or 4 different extensions of that, and I said last week they're going to do exactly the same with Anthropic, and already Anthropic are back at the table. So Anthropic chief back in talks with Pentagon about AI deal. So this is a week later. Dario Amodei holding discussions with deputy to Pete Hegseth to reach a compromise on military use of technology. That's interestingly. I also mentioned that I think that Pete Hegseth and Dario Amodei hate each other, and that there's a personality clash at play here. And the fact that Sam Altman could go in. Sam is a lot smoother. He's a lot more diplomatic than Dario Amodei. I think when Dario Amodei makes a decision, he's quite high-handed about it, which is great because it means they have stronger ethical boundaries, but at the same time might make it more difficult to come to agreements. I have the feeling that Dario Amodei and Pete Hegseth just butted heads. So Dario is talking to a deputy. Great, maybe some cooler heads can get something done here. So Anthropic chief executive Dario Amodei is making a last-ditch attempt to strike a deal with the US Defense Department after the breakdown in negotiations last week left his company at risk of being frozen out of the military supply chain. I mean, I would say it's more than that. They have been designated a supply chain risk. Potentially, well, they won't be able to deal with any governmental departments. and potentially any company that has dealings with governmental departments will not be able to deal with Anthropic. So that is obviously being challenged legally. That will probably go to court, and legal experts think that the government won't be able to uphold it. But this is 2026. Like, who knows? All bets are off. We have no idea. And even if it goes to court, that's going to take some time. And during that period, Anthropic will be bleeding out. It's going to cost them a lot of money. Amadei has been holding discussions with Emil Michael, Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, in a bid to iron out a contract governing the Pentagon's access to Anthropic's AI models. So something is being worked out behind the scenes. You have statements being thrown around, you have tweets, you have people yelling at each other, but then quietly the actual deal will get done in private. Agreeing a new contract would enable the US military to continue using Anthropic's technology. They already are. They are continuing to use it at the moment. So the Financial Times is a little off the mark here. And greatly reduce the risk of the company being designated supply chain risk. Technically, I think it already has. A move threatened by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. So he said, we have designated you a supply chain risk, but potentially that has to go through the actual legal, the legals of that, rather than just yelling it at people on Twitter. Threatened on Friday, but not yet enacted. Okay. The attempt to reach a compromise agreement followed the spectacular collapse of talks last week, followed by the bombing of Iran a couple of hours later. Michael attacked Amadei. So this is Michael is Emil Michael, the Undersecretary. He attacked Amadei as a liar with a god complex on Thursday. Okay, so that's this is the guy who is now negotiating with Amadei. I hate to say this, Anthropic, but you should probably send someone else to the negotiations. I know Dario Amadei's the head and he's the CEO, but I think he's pissed them off. Send somebody who's a bit more diplomatic and get this sorted out. Don't send Dario. I love the work that they do and the stuff that they've done, but maybe he's not the right person to be in that room. Deliberations broke down a day after the pair failed to agree language that Anthropic felt was essential to prevent AI being used for mass domestic surveillance, which is one of the company's red lines alongside lethal autonomous weapons. Incorrect. The Financial Times is wrong here. They do not care about making lethal autonomous weapons. They are fine doing so. Anthropic are happy to make lethal autonomous weapons. They want more time to make sure that the lethal autonomous weapons cannot harm American warfighters or civilians. They are happy, absolutely willing to make lethal autonomous weapons to attack non-Americans. So they would be, as long as the testing is done, they would be in a place where they are able to help build weapons that can be used against people in Iran, people in Russia, the Chinese, etc., as long as it does not harm Americans. So this is not quite right, Financial Times. And you need to read Dario Amadei's statement because that is incorrect. Near the end of the negotiations, this is a quote, the department offered to accept our current terms if we deleted a specific phrase about analysis of bulk acquired data. So this is mass domestic surveillance, which was a single line in the contract that exactly matched this scenario we were most worried about. We found this very suspicious, wrote Amadei in a memo to staff on Friday, which was first reported to The Information on Wednesday and seen by the FT. So, yeah, it looks like the Department of War, the Pentagon, specifically wants to use artificial intelligence for mass domestic surveillance. Again, Anthropic is absolutely fine with mass non-domestic, so spying on the Chinese, absolutely fine. That's fine. It's domestic specifically. In a note which is likely to complicate negotiations, Amadei wrote that much of the messaging from the Pentagon and OpenAI, which struck its own agreement with Hegseth on Friday, a few hours afterwards, and even Sam Altman has come out and said, yeah, that looks kind of gross. That was a bit hasty. He did an AMA on Twitter, and there's also been some leaks from internal memos where it's been shown that Sam realized, like, oof, that was a bad move. We should have waited until the body was cold. It was also the same day the Pentagon and the Department of War and America attacked Iran. So Sam Altman looked like he was swooping in like a vulture on this deal just to get the payday, and directly supporting the war in that way, which they're not. They are just taken this deal, and that's going to be worked out over the next few months, obviously, but the timing of it was problematic. And that's why over this last week, or since Friday, people have been leaving ChatGPT, and there's been this quit ChatGPT trend. We've got very public people like Katy Perry moving over to Claude, bizarrely, with a lot of people saying, I'm done, I'm leaving, I'm going over to Claude. So Claude became the good guys. But do remember, they are happy to build killbots. They just can't harm Americans, that's all. We have to remember that these are all giant billion-dollar corporations run by billionaires. They are none of them are truly peaceful, or none of them are truly pacific here. Amadeus suggested Anthropic had been frozen out because we haven't given dictator-style praise to Trump, in contrast to OpenAI's chief Sam Altman. Again, this is why I don't think they're able to cut a deal with Amadeus, because he's very high-handed. Whereas Sam Altman is, he knows when to smile, he knows when to behave in a certain way to get a deal done, which Amadeus is calling dictator-style praise to Trump. So Amadeus saying, I'm not going to do that. Fantastic, standing up for his principles, but in terms of getting the deal done, he's probably not the right person to have at the table. Of course, maybe they shouldn't have the deal. Maybe we want them to stand up. But if they are not able to deal with American companies, if companies like NVIDIA don't deal with them, because NVIDIA has government contracts, government ties, if Amazon can't deal with Anthropic because Amazon have government ties, that is going to be the end of Anthropic. Amazon, for example, are the largest investor in Anthropic. They also provide all of the hosting, AWS. So what would happen if that relationship is splintered in some way? Interestingly, we did not hear anything from Amazon last week. No statement. They didn't say anything, despite being one of the single largest investors in Anthropic. They didn't jump forward to defend Anthropic. They have instead stayed very quiet, conspicuously quiet. So Anthropic was first awarded the $200 million agreement with the US Defense Department in July last year, and was the first AI model to be used in classified settings and by national security agencies. So again, 4 companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, and xAI, all took these agreements last year, all around 200 million that we know of. So that's every major American lab took an agreement with the Pentagon, which puts us in the position of, well, they're obviously not. When you take a contract with the Department of War, you know what you're getting into. It's going to be used for war. So this, again, I'm seeing a lot of people classifying Anthropic as the good guys, and they have our best interests in heart, and they want and they want safe use of artificial intelligence. They are still happy and willing to develop artificial intelligence for purposes in war. They would not have taken a $200 million contract otherwise. What they want to do is make sure that no Americans are harmed. You can 100% harm non-Americans. In fact, they're going to be developing tools to do that. Killbots, targeting, and the like. 100%. That is not the problem here. So we need to not elevate any of these companies as the savior in the land of artificial intelligence. We, as individuals, need to be more wary about that. The fight between Anthropic and the government escalated after the Pentagon pushed for AI companies to allow their technology to be used for any lawful purpose, which, when you get to define the laws and when you get to define the policies, is a pretty wide remit. It culminated in Hegseth declaring last week that he planned to designate the company a supply chain risk, obliging businesses in the military supply chain to cut ties with Anthropic. So they're back at the table. They are talking again. It is Dario Amodei going and doing the negotiations, which I don't think is the right idea for Anthropic. They need to send somebody who's got a bit more chill. Somebody who, I mean, he's talking to this guy, Emil Michael, who last week called Amodei a liar with a god complex. So don't send Dario. Hopefully they've got a team around him for the negotiations. John Joe saying, I'd be less inclined to use Claude if they make a deal. So I think this is what we're going to see over the next week. A lot of people have flooded over to Claude. We think a couple of million people, which for the first time, Claude has become a popular tool. People have actually heard of Claude. It is #1 on the App Store right now in America and a lot of other countries. That has never been the case for Anthropic and Claude. Claude's always been like a very niche, very high-end artificial intelligence, but not something for the masses. That has changed, and people have actually heard of what Claude is. But if it's based on, oh, they're standing up to the Pentagon, well, that's not going to last very long if they strike a deal this week or next week and get back in with the Pentagon. So all of that goodwill that they have kind of accidentally acquired over the last week by basically telling the Department of War to fuck off, that will evaporate because people will realize, oh, wait, no, they're just another multi-billion-dollar company who are run by billionaires, and or maybe they don't, maybe they're not the good guys that we thought they were, which is probably a good reality check. So we'll see what happens with this. This story is changing so quickly that it's every time I do videos on this, and I'll put out short videos on TikTok and Instagram later, they will be out of date by tomorrow, and it is what it is. At least I have a very quick turnover in my videos. I've seen some people just posting videos like yesterday, and it's all out of date like immediately. So it's so fast. Okay, so that is the big news and kind of the big shifting pieces. What I wanted to talk about, though, is something that seems very boring, but I think is probably one of the most important things that's happened in AI this year so far. Believe me, this sounds boring. It's not. So they have introduced a Google Workspace command line interface. Woo! How exciting! Here's the GitHub. So the Google Workspace command line interface, one command line tool for Google Drive, Gmail, Calendar, Sheets, Docs, Chat, Admin, and more. Dynamically built from X, blah, 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 and it's got a bunch of skills. This is important because we can hook our AI agents, we can hook our AI tools up to the entire Google Workspace now. We don't need to use weird workarounds. We don't need to use browser automation. We can talk directly to everything inside of the Google Workspace, the Google Workspace ecosystem, which is kind of a lot of stuff. So this is one of those very boring but very important changes, and I'm seeing a lot of people saying, yes, finally, holy shit, I love you, holy moly. So the people who actually build and use stuff realize that, oh my god, this is so cool. So I've already started using this this morning. That's why I'm a little bit late to the live. This allows me to hook my AI agents up to my Google Workspace, so it can get direct integration with Gmail, which is great because I don't need to use any browser automation. I don't need anything like clicking around virtually inside of my Gmail. Instead, it can go straight in, and I can link it to absolutely everything. So this means once you've installed the MCP on Claude Code, or you've set up the skills, you can connect everything together and get it all working as one. Very, very boring, but very, very exciting. It's like plumbing. It's like a new type of plumbing has been invented. Let's have a look what the scripts are. Sorry, the skills are. So we've got admin stuff. If you run a workspace admin, here we go. Chat, calendar. So being able to automate your calendar directly through a command line interface is awesome. Docs, obviously, we love that. Drive. So this is how I'm going to be using this. What I am building is a content management system in the background where I will, I've got bits and pieces of it, but this will allow me to unify it. When I have an idea for a piece of content, I'll be able to drop a note in somewhere, and it will automatically begin to process. So I'll drop it into a, I'll probably text it to myself actually. That will drop it into a flow where it will then write a quick script for me. It will do some research. It will drop it into, where is it? Into Sheets here. And then from that Sheets, I will record the video. I will drop the recorded video into G Drive, into Google Drive, and it will be linked up with the sheet, which will have descriptions. It will have the script that will be able to create captions for my social media. It will also be able to flesh it out into newsletter articles if I want, flesh it out into blog articles, etc., all within this one ecosystem, so I can control everything via the command line interface, and it just makes everything a lot more smooth. So I could have done a lot of this via skills and MCP or API calls, but the fact that they've just built a native command line interface is very, very exciting. And if you're not technical and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you kind of don't have to be. What this is doing is removing the need for you to connect all these things yourself. You can talk to Claude Code now and say, hey, there's a new workspace thing from Google and Kyle has been going on about it, and I think it would be useful because I use the Google Workspace ecosystem. What can we do with it? And you would just copy this GitHub link, this workspace / command line interface CLI. You'd copy it into your Claude Code or whatever tool you're using and saying, this is what it is, have a look through, and what can we use to simplify our workflows? What else can we build with this? So this is actually making life a lot easier if you're not technical, because it's giving all of these different ways for our AI tools to be able to talk to each other. This is kind of the future of where a lot of software is going. It's not about user interfaces, it's not about user experiences, it's not about a human going and looking around, but it's about being able to give access to an AI agent so it can do work for you. And that's exactly what this is. So it's boring, it is plumbing, it's highly utilitarian, but this stuff is incredibly important. So we're going to be seeing a lot of cool stuff being built on this. Well, they're already at 7,000 stars. That's pretty good. Shane. Hey, Shane. And hi, Pekka. So, oh, this is a good description. Think of it like a universal remote for Google Workspace. Imagine sitting in your living room with 5 remotes on the table. One for the TV, one for the sound system, another for streaming apps, another for gaming. Now imagine replacing all of them with one remote that understands everything. That's the idea behind the Google Workspace CLI command line interface. Instead of opening Gmail, Drive, Admin Console, and the other dashboards separately, the command line interface lets you interact with them all through one interface. You type a command and it communicates with the Google Workspace services behind the scenes. So it will just be able to connect everything seamlessly for us. Very, very, very cool. So turning Google Workspace into something programmable. So all of those repetitive tasks we can now turn over to agents, and it will be able to work within our Google Workspace and get things done for us. It's a bit like what Microsoft are trying to do with Copilot, because Copilot links into the rest of the workspace, but Copilot doesn't do it very well. Do they have a... I don't think they even have a... Oh, they have a CLI. See, I don't use the Microsoft ecosystem enough. Oh no, this is their... Oh my god. This is because they call everything Copilot at Microsoft. So this is the GitHub Copilot. So this is very different to the Copilot that lives inside of your organization. It's like the beating heart of your organization. Microsoft have a bit of a naming problem because they've called all of their AIs Copilot. So their chat version is called Copilot. There are Copilots that live inside PowerPoint, inside Word, inside Power BI. Those are separate Copilots. And then they have like a Copilot that sits in the middle of your organization. Then they have GitHub Copilot, which is a agentic or a vibe coding tool, agentic engineering tool. So they've kind of shot themselves in the foot by calling everything Copilot. So it's incredibly confusing to know what the hell's going on with Microsoft. Good analogy. Yeah, it's not my analogy. I stole that. It's from this guy, Vinay Bashkala. Okay, the next thing, because Google are cooking, is cinematic video overviews. So Notebook LM, you've probably heard me talking about excitedly a lot. I absolutely love Notebook LM. It's like a mini RAG system. You can throw a lot of information into it. It will filter through all that information and allow you to create presentations. You can create an audio podcast that explains everything that you've given it. You can create flashcards, you can make quizzes, you could make little video explainers. They have now upgraded the video explainers, I think using their VO model by the looks of it. So introducing cinematic video overviews, the next evolution of Google LM Studio. Unlike standard templates, these are powered by a novel combination of our most advanced models, so it'll probably be Nano Banana and VO and Gemini, to create bespoke immersive videos from your sources. I mean, look at this thing. Let's watch this. So it'd be in a video overview. Oh, so it used to be like this, the video overviews. They were static. It gave you basically a like a little slideshow, and it would talk through, it would narrate it as well. But now they've upgraded it so it would do full motion video, cinematic motion video like this, which is pretty cool. Again, just ways to visualize information to help with learning, which is what NotebookLM is all about. It's free, NotebookLM. I believe this new one is only on the Ultra plans for now, so that's going to be extremely limited. I don't know anyone who's got a Gemini Ultra plan, but I'm sure it will come down to Pro and eventually to free, depending on how much it costs them to provide this. But very, very cool. NotebookLM, if you haven't used it, I'm always beating the drum about this because it's one of the best AI tools out there because it's actually useful. So here's one, like last week or 2 weeks ago, I did a, it's not going to work. 2 weeks ago, I did a presentation about the Anthropic distillation attacks. So this is what it looks like, for example. Oh, I'm not sure if that would even be visible. Can you see on the right hand side, it created a slide deck for me. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's not loaded for some reason. Let me do it this way. There we go. So this was created from sources. So what I gave to NotebookLM, oh my God, Google, you have to stop everything making new windows. There we go. I gave it a YouTube video called Anthropic is Lying to Us. So just one YouTube video, and it converted this into a slide deck for me. So I used this slide deck during my live to present and talk about the concept. So it created all of this text. It created all of these images. It actually worked out what slides I should have, and this is a 12-page slide deck. Very, very cool. This is all from NotebookLM. This is all free, so you can turn any information into different formats. So you can do audio. That gives you a podcast with two people talking about your topic. So if you like to listen, that's a really good way to do it. You can also interrupt them, and you can talk to the podcast hosts, which is bizarre. I don't find it particularly useful myself, but it's kind of cool. You can do videos. So there are different styles in here. Let's see what they have. Yeah, so I don't have the cinematic version yet, but this will create, do I? No, I don't. But it will create a little explainer video. You can do mind maps, you can do written reports, you can do flashcards, quizzes, infographics, slides, and data. So NotebookLM is amazing, and they keep making it better. One thing that I want to do, so I just talked about the Google Workspace command line interface. The first thing I checked when I got into here is like, oh my God, have you allowed me to connect to NotebookLM? Because if they've allowed me to do that, what I'd be able to do is I would give talks like this. So my live streams, I take the transcript from my live stream, I cut that up into shorter sections, and then use that to script short videos. But what I could also do is generate, if I could connect to NotebookLM, I could generate slide decks. I could generate carousels, for example. I could generate all of these different assets directly. Unfortunately, that has not been added yet into the command line interface. So the only way to connect into NotebookLM is through workarounds, which is a shame. But as soon as they connect this via the API, as soon as they connect it to something like the command line interface, you'll be able to generate all of this automatically based off of information. So, I mean, imagine that. I do this live stream. I talk about 3 or 4 different news topics. I take the transcript from this live stream, we chunk it up, or AI chunks it up into those different stories. From those stories, we can also extract videos. So if you've noticed over the last few days, I'm doing about 12 to 15 short videos a day. That's because I can pull from the live stream and I can do short videos on each of the different aspects, like little 30-second videos. I could also connect it up to NotebookLM and generate visual assets, so I can make infographics, for example. And using this command line interface, I'll be able to connect to things like Nano Banana Pro and create YouTube thumbnails. So now this Workspace command line interface allows me to pull everything together in one space and to automate like I couldn't do before. So I'm very, very excited about using this. Again, boring but exciting news. It's one of those weird ones where if you build and you see this, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be great. But do not sleep on Notebook LM. It's, for the last couple of years, I've been telling people, use Claude, use Claude. You have to use Claude. Claude is much better than ChatGPT. I've been banging the drum for Claude, and finally people are using Claude, so that's great. So my next mission now is Notebook LM. Use Notebook LM. It's really good. This is my new target, and I will not stop. You seem to know a bit. I'm having a bit of assistance advice for what I'm facing. I don't know, I talk a lot. I'm not sure if I know anything, but if you drop in what you need help with, and I'll see if I can help. I think I talk so much that, it's hard to be wrong all of the time. You can use Notebook as a source in Gemini. Yeah, they're starting to bring everything together, which is fantastic. Christina, oh, Claude subscription worth it? I have only experience with ChatGPT. Yes, Claude is fantastic. It is the best model out there. But you've asked about usage. Usage is not similar, unfortunately. So for ChatGPT, the free plan is quite generous. You can use a decent amount on the free plan on ChatGPT. The free plan on Claude is basically non-existent. And I think you don't get access to Opus either, which is their best model. So most people will go with the $20 a month plan for Claude. However, run into usage limits with Claude. So this is a big shock that a lot of people have when they move from ChatGPT over to Claude. If you pay $20 a month with ChatGPT, you're basically never going to run out of usage unless you're doing some heavy coding tasks. You're using Codex, for example. But otherwise, you're not going to run out of usage on ChatGPT. On Claude, you will. At $20 a month, you can be paying them, but you do a few requests using Opus 4.6, you will hit a wall, and it will say, oh, come back in that hour, come back in 6 hours, come back tomorrow, which is very frustrating. So realistically, on the $20 a month plan with Claude, you have to use Sonnet. Opus will just murder your usage. This means if you want to use Opus, the best model, and it's very good, realistically, you need to be on the $100 a month plan, which is 5 times the usage. That's realistically to get any productivity from it, and $100 a month is a lot of money, especially if you're using it for personal needs. So Claude is more expensive. It's also better, but they charge you for that. They charge you a lot. That said, if you run a business, I would say Claude, $100 or $200 a month is probably the best $100 you can spend on anything in business. It's a very high leverage purchase or investment in this case, and they actually subsidize the cost of that. So if you were getting the same from their API, you were buying the tokens, it would cost you a lot more. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, but realistically the entrance level is $100 a month, which I know for personal usage is probably too much for a lot of people in a lot of the parts of the world. But they just have a very different business model. So ChatGPT or OpenAI have about 900 million users. Not that many of them pay, unfortunately. So they have a huge user base because they're aiming at the B2C, the business to consumer market. They want AI for everybody. Claude and Anthropic do not. They're aiming at the high end of the market, people who are coding, people who are building businesses. They are not that interested in having a generous free plan. They're not really about AI for everyone. It's a far more elite focused artificial intelligence for heavy, hard, difficult tasks, rather than making sure everybody has access. So they're very different companies. Anthropic has, we think about 30, 40, 50 million users, which is a lot of users. There's a lot of people using it, but compared to 900 million from OpenAI, it's tiny. Interestingly, though, their revenues are around about the same. So even though OpenAI has nearly 1 billion people using it, they make about as much money as Anthropic do. So Anthropic are focusing on a very small group of people who can pay well, whereas ChatGPT, OpenAI, they are focusing on a huge group of people expecting only a small percentage to pay. That is also why they're adding adverts into ChatGPT. They need a way to monetize it. Different model. But that means if you are moving from ChatGPT over to Claude, that can come as a bit of a shock, because you are used to being able to use AI for free, and then you come over to Claude and you start hitting limits fast. So you're like, okay, I'll pay you $20 a month and then I'll be able to use it, right? No, you will still get hit fast if you use Opus. So you have to use Sonnet if you're on $20 a month. If you want to use Opus, it's going to be $100 a month. There's not really any way around that, I'm afraid. Notebook LM is a great way to limit your LLM or agent to focus solely on a specific set of content. Yeah, it's like a mini RAG system. Sometimes it's great to focus on known content, minimizes hallucinations as well. Yeah, you just load up all the stuff that you want to focus on, and it will only use that as sources unless you tell it explicitly to go elsewhere and find information, which makes it really, really useful. Morning from Canada. So yes, it's worth it, Christina, but it is not cheap, unfortunately. Sorry, I missed it. What do you use to make short videos out of live videos? This, and I talk to it. So I think there are certain things that we shouldn't use AI in. One of them is content. So that's why I am going live like this. That's why I'm talking to you. You get all my ums, you get all my ers, you get all my technical problems. You get to hear the doorbell go off when the postman comes, because I think increasingly that human connection, that authenticity is going to become important, especially in business. Being able to trust who it is that you are actually talking to. So that's why I'm doing live streams. That is also why when I do short video, I do not use AI avatars. I use myself. It's just me talking, because I think that's going to become more and more valued moving forward. That's a personal choice, but I think that's probably the smart move. I might be wrong. I might be wrong about this, but I think as it becomes easier and easier and easier to create using artificial intelligence, the value of that will decrease. So anyone who continues to create more authentically and to do things that AI can't do yet, like a long live stream like this, there will be additional rewards flowing in that direction. It also helps you with the extra skill, the really useful extra skill of public speaking. If you are able to do public speaking, if you're able to talk to camera, if you're able to talk on stage, that's going to become more important as artificial intelligence takes over, because I think there's going to be a flow towards in-person events, going to be a flow towards kind of live experiences where you know there's an actual person there. Speaking of which, I'm giving a webinar tonight at 6 p.m. So in about 6 hours from now, if you go to aiwithkyle.com/webinar, I'm giving a webinar about one of the best opportunities in AI right now, which is going into businesses and teaching them about artificial intelligence. If you are sitting here watching a live stream right now, that tells me that you're well ahead of everybody out there. I go and do workshops with businesses, and it's kind of scary how little people know about how to use artificial intelligence. So you can go and help them, and you can get paid very well. $1,000 an hour. I charge about $3,000 per hour for giving a workshop, and I'm going to be talking today on the webinar about how you do that. Specifically, what is the demand and why are people willing to pay so much? The reason is because we do workshops, and when you are teaching a lot of people at the same time, it actually works out very cheap for them. So for example, the most I've charged is $4,000 for 1 hour. There were 400 people in the room, so that's $10 per person per hour. So once you shift the mathematics and you realize that, oh, by talking to a large group of people, I can make a disproportionate amount of money, you realize that workshops are a very good mechanism to do this. The second thing we talk about is what level of AI knowledge do you need? And the main thing, I mean, this is a bit of a spoiler if you're joining later, the main thing I talk about is this, how your AI knowledge is less important than your ability to interpret and translate that AI knowledge to people in your industry. So if you have worked in an industry for years, you know their language, you know what uses of AI is important for them, you know how to deliver that information in stories, metaphors, etc. You have that advantage that other people do not. So your job is to work in this middle area here. So that's the second thing I talk about. And then the third thing, that's why I'm talking about it in the first place, is public speaking. Because I know for a lot of people, public speaking is an absolutely terrifying concept. For me, 2 years ago, it was as well. I would have palpitations and come out in a cold sweat if I had to get on stage, but it is something that you can learn. One of the best ways to do that, and this comes back to that first question, how do you make short videos? One of the best ways to do this is not using artificial intelligence to generate AI videos, but instead leaning into creating content. So you're not necessarily creating content to become an influencer or to drive traffic or anything like that, or to grow your account. Those things happen, and that's fantastic. But you create content to practice public speaking, to practice explaining concepts that you're going to talk to people about at workshops. And I talk about this whole way of this kind of structured practice ladder, how we go from shorts to lives to in-person events with people you know, to charities, to non-paid business workshops, to paid workshops. I talk about how you build confidence step by step by step by step. And again, that's going to be in the webinar tonight at 6 p.m. UK time. If you go to aiwithkyle.com/webinar, you'll be able to sign up. If you cannot make it tonight, this is the last one I'm doing for a while, for a month or so. If you cannot make it, we'll send out the recording afterwards. But try and come. I think we've got 100 and something people coming, or RSVP'd, so it should be fun. If you're not sick of me yapping. I would be. Is Antigravity the cheapest way to set up a Google Workspace command line and vibe code with? Yeah, probably. Antigravity has the great price. We love this price. The price of $0 per month. So yeah, that'll work really well. So even on the free plan, you get access to Gemini 3.1 Pro, which is their newest model, Gemini 3 Flash, Claude Sonnet, and Opus 4.6. Very expensive, very advanced model, and GPT OSS, which is the open source ChatGPT. There will be limits, obviously. You won't be able to use that forever. So you'll run out during the day and you might have to come back tomorrow. But for $0 a month, it's kind of hard to beat that. You can also use AI Studio, which is also Google. So if you go into AI Studio, then to build here, this is kind of an even simpler interface. If you've ever used Lovable, you'll recognize this. It's basically just a chat window. You can say, I want to make a new app that does XYZ. You just say that and you will talk through the concept with the AI and it will start to build for you. So again, this is also free. The limitation is that you can only use the Gemini models. That's fine. Gemini 3.1 is 3.1 Pro is very good. And again, it's free. The alternatives to that would be, well, Claude Code is the big one. Claude Code is not free. You're going to be paying $100 or $200 a month, or a simpler tool like Lovable. Lovable, I think, starts at $20 or $25 a month. So if you're looking to do it for free, it's going to be Antigravity or Google AI Studio. There is talk, there are rumors of them merging, which would be really cool because they're both good, but they're for different things. Antigravity gives you more control, but it's a bit of a steeper learning curve because it looks like a development environment, whereas the build mode gives you less control, but it gives you that really easy to use interface. Bringing them together and just having two modes makes a lot of sense. So people who are new to vibe coding can use the simple chat interface. People who are more comfortable would be able to expand and use the full development environment. So hopefully we'll see that soon. But yes, free, you can't beat free. I've seen people complaining, like they download this and they start using Antigravity and they're like, it doesn't give me enough access. It's like, my man, it's free. Stop complaining. So Google are basically subsidizing this in order to get people using Antigravity, and they are paying the bills to Claude, for you to use it for free. It sucks for the amount of money. Yeah, in subscription, ChatGPT seems to be better, but overall, no. Yeah, ChatGPT, you get a lot more usage for your money. Unfortunately, a lot of people are quitting ChatGPT right now, moving over to Claude because of the Pentagon stuff. Although, as I've talked about, Anthropic are trying to cut a deal with the Pentagon, so People might be going back to ChatGPT. The problem is moving from ChatGPT to Claude is you get a lot less use and it costs a lot more money. That's just kind of, it's unavoidable. I finally went with Claude Max. Expensive, but I already know it's a good investment. Yeah. Once you can rely on it not to run out of credits, the game changes. Yeah. Yeah. If you are using AI for business, if you are using it to build products and build services, if you're using it to automate stuff in your business, you need the credits. You can't. If you have a $20 a month plan with Claude and you're building, and you're like, yes, here we go, I'm about to have a breakthrough with my product and it's going to be amazing. And suddenly it's like, no, come back tomorrow. It's a false economy to save and not buy the max plan, because the max plan will allow you to just keep building. And being able to build at speed and launch at speed is so important now, because everything is moving extremely fast. If you are hamstringing yourself with the $20 a month plan and trying to build a business on that, it's just going to be really tricky because you're going to hit those limits. Now, of course, $100 a month is not available for everybody, but if you are doing this as a business investment, it's the best $100 you could spend. Like, honestly, I cannot think of a single tool or a single service or a single product that is a better use of money right now. And as Enlightened People is saying, once you can rely on it not to run out, yeah, the game changes, because you know, oh, I can just sit and build all day, and that is your day, and you are going to build amazing things. Whereas if suddenly out of the blue you're told, nope, stop, come back tomorrow, you can't build a business that way. Like, it's not feasible. What are your guys' opinions about 4.0 and 4.1 being deleted, and 5.1? So you can get them all on the API. They are still on the API. Let's pull it up. API models. So they're still around. They've just removed them from the app. So what are we on? So many models. So 4.1. They've hidden it down here because they don't want people using it. There it is. 4.0. So you can still try the playground. Oh, I'm not logged in for some reason. Oh no, so this one is deprecated. This is 4.0 latest, but there's another 4.0 even further down. That's 04. Here we go, 4.0. So GPT 4.0 is still around. It's GPT 4.0 latest that got deprecated from the API. So you can still use this. You can try it in the playground. You can install it in your own applications. It's around. They've just removed it from the app. They're basically trying to tidy up the app, and that's why they're removing GPT 5.1 as well. And they're going to remove 5.2 in June the 6th. They're removing that. And March the 11th, they're removing 5.1. So they're just being a lot more aggressive with taking things out of the app. But I know a lot of people are upset about 4.0 in particular. Don't get me started on the Microsoft Claude plugins. Yes, amazing. The spreadsheet one, the Excel one. It's a little bit embarrassing that Claude made a better Excel plugin than Microsoft did. And Microsoft have a whole Copilot team, and the Excel Copilot is a bit crap, whereas the Claude plugin for Excel is absolutely stellar. Really, really good. I'm sure they'll be working on other plugins, or you can build your own plugin using Claude code. Could you start with your model by coaching small business owners, have access to thousands of them? Which model? They would not use AI every day, but want to understand how they could integrate it. You can pass your projects between Studio and IDE via Git. Would be great if they make it easier. Oh, inside of Google. Scott says, I have started using Claude and it's amazing. Yes. I know I need to start looking at skills, but where would be the best place to start? Is it just choosing a use case and seeing if there's a skill for it? Yeah, kind of. The great thing, you can ask Claude. You could say, these are the things that I'm working on. Are there any skills that would be relevant? But what you can do if you want to get a bit more of a... this is how I use AI most of the time. Like this new Google command line interface, Google Workspace. I just went straight to Claude Code and I was like, yo, there's a new command line interface. What can we do with it? And it's like, oh, that's great. We can do such and such. We can move things off this really simplified. Like, I just ask, what can we use it for? If you go to anthropic.skilljar.com, they have a bunch of free courses, including one that is specifically, there it is, agent skills. So learn how to configure, build and share skills, because you can make your own skills, which is really cool. And there's also, so this gives you an introduction to what skills are. There is also a GitHub somewhere. There we go. There is a public repository of Claude skills. So they are here. There's quite a lot of them, but there's a few in here. So we've got algorithmic art, brand guidelines. That's a good one. One for working with docs, PDF, MCP builder, etc. So there's a bunch in here that you can use. And then people create their own and share their own. Here we go. For more information about, there are directories. You can look up like Claude skills directory. I'm forgetting the name of the big one. Complete guide to building. Oh, somebody has built one with 200,000 plus skills. That is too many. That's too many. Is it this one? But start with what you need to do. So it's very easy, and this is what's been happening with OpenClaw in particular. It's very easy to go down a rabbit hole of like, ooh, all the things it could do, and then adding things in and adding complexity. Start with your task and work out what you actually need to get done with AI, because ultimately that's what we're using the AI for, is to accelerate ourselves and to do better. I was about to say superpowers. This one here is very good. This is like a bunch of skills. It's a package, which is a good one, which is worth looking at. But work from what you need it to do. Start with your problem and use AI to solve it, rather than start coming up with solutions to problems that don't exist. Otherwise, it is just a rabbit hole. I mean, as we just saw, there's a directory that's 200,000 skills in it. Like, there's too many. So look for these kind of curated collections is a good way to get started. But otherwise, just get started and talk to Claude and keep asking, like, oh, is there a skill? Is there an MCP? Is there something that we can use here? And remember, you can also build your own skills, which is really cool. And there is a skill, here we go, there's a skill that helps you build skills here. It gets very meta. And if all of this looks confusing and you're like, what the hell is this? Don't worry, you just talk to Claude. And you say, hey, I've heard there's something called superpowers, which is a core skills library. I'd love for you to go and grab that for me. And it will go and deal with it for you. So you're not doing any complicated installation. It will tell you what it needs and go off and do that for you, which is really, really cool. I'm seeing a tremendous surge in AI positions in companies. Yeah, if they are moving quickly to hire expertise, where does the AI teaching consultation land? Is this a window of opportunity or an investment? Yeah, I think so. Wherever there's demand, there's always going to be opportunity. So they'll be hiring experts, but they also need to train the rest of their staff. That is important as well, because it's all well and good having one hotshot who's able to vibe code up proof of concepts, but a lot of the benefits of artificial intelligence come from the grassroots level. So having your staff members know what they can use it on a daily basis. So there was this MIT NANDA study, which I won't be able to pull up because it's always really annoying to find. Is it this one? There we go, I got it. So lots of people have talked about this one. This is the one where people are saying, oh, 95% of organizations are getting zero return on their pilot projects. That was the headline. That is literally the first line. That's what people paid attention to. And they did not read the rest of it. What was more interesting is the fact that only 40% of the companies they surveyed had actually provided their staff with AI. So they hadn't bothered to give the rest of the staff AI. However, 90% of the staff were using AI, so they were bringing their own AI to work. This 90% here tells me that these people find AI really useful. And they are going behind the back of their companies and bringing their own AI to work because they know it can help them on a daily basis. This is the really interesting opportunity, is helping normal people who know what their tasks are, who know what their problems are, to solve those problems using artificial intelligence. And what the Nanda study showed is when you bring in experts, when you do top-down AI, which a lot of these, hiring of expertise, hiring of consultants, that would be top-down. It'd be the leadership saying, okay, we're going to use AI in these areas, we'll do these pilot projects. That doesn't work. What does work is when you get staff members using AI on a daily basis, because they can align it with what problems they actually have. They know what problems AI can solve. So you need to train them first. So that actually connects back to the previous question, which was what skills should I use, or should I start with my problems? Start with your problems and find skills to match the problems, rather than finding skills and then creating your own problems based on it. Exactly the same. So I think the opportunity is there. It's in helping not just bring in one AI expert into a company. That's cool. That's fine. But it's in helping the thousands of other people in the company work out what the hell to do with AI. And this study, let me find it, let's see if I can find it. What they found is that when you do that, and you actually just give staff members access to AI and you train them on how to use it, then you do get positive return on investment. So 95% of the big flagship projects failed. However, if you just gave it to people, those like micro projects, they're not even defined as projects, but that was much more successful. Let me see if I can find it. What's the word they use? It's a long study, so I don't want to go through it. It's a long, very boring study. No, I'm not going to bother finding it right now, because it's also a flawed study as well in a number of ways. And I don't want to get into it again. I've already litigated this one. Unfortunately, people only read headlines. Let me just solve this captcha. There we go. Section is having a free all-day conference today on AI ROI. Very cool. There's a couple of other bits and pieces I want to talk about. It's quite UK specific though. No, I'll probably skip it. Well, this one. So the UK government are they're creating a new lab to keep the UK in the fast lane on AI breakthroughs. This is again an example of too little, too late. I've already dunked on the UK government for their AI skills hub recently, and this is kind of similar. It's the same with the EU as well. It's not just a UK thing. This is a two-horse race between China and America, and the EU and the UK and other countries were kind of making like little little gestures like this one, which is we're setting up a new lab with £40 million. Wow, that's a lot. Wow, loads of money. 40. It's like a salary in America. But worse, this 40 million, this is over 6 years. So it's, what's that? 40 divided by 6, I should know this. 6 million a year. So again, this is like a salary for a high-end AI engineer, or a couple of engineers in America. But in the UK, we're putting this 40 million towards this new lab, which is for blue sky AI thinking across 6 years, so £6 million a year. I'm making a big deal about this. Is like this AI is not being fought on the £1 million scale, the $1 million scale anymore. It's in the hundreds of millions or the billions. So these little token gestures are, it's basically pissing in the wind. I don't quite see the purpose of this. They do point out that in the UK we do have a lot of talent, and we're going to support that talent. The problem is with that talent is that it just goes to America, with the exception to the rule being Demis Hassabis, and Demis Hassabis saying, no, we're going to stay in the UK, and telling Google back in 2014, no, we're not moving, which was an amazing thing to do, but it's still an American company. It's owned by Google. Fundamental research could tackle the basic flaws that still plague AI models, like hallucinations, short memory, and unpredictability. I mean, we're kind of dealing with them already. There's a rumor that GPT 5.4, which is coming out soon, apparently will have a 2 million token context window, which would be very cool, extremely cool. It depends how they use it, of course. It's like size isn't everything, but that would be game changing. Hallucinations are increasingly not really a problem because we have chain of thought, we have search. So hallucinations have been falling off a cliff. So this just feels a little bit behind the times, too little too late. £40 million is not enough over 6 years. Like, come on, guys. But sure, I'm not going to dunk on the UK government anymore. It's too easy. Cool. And I'll skip that too because that's too UK focused. Right. Awesome. Thank you, guys. As I mentioned, we are doing a webinar tonight. So at 6 p.m. UK time, I'm going to be giving a webinar about giving workshops to businesses and how it's a really good opportunity right now. Massive amount of demand. And I'm going to be talking about how you personally are going to tap into that demand, how you define your niche, how you will, what kind of level of AI knowledge you need, plus how you can become comfortable with public speaking so that you can get up in front of a group of people and get paid $1,000, $2,000 per hour. We've got about 100 people coming, so that'd be fantastic if you can join us. And especially if you are other places in the world, it's also always great. We did one on Tuesday. We had somebody who came in from New Zealand. I think it was 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, which was a hell of a commitment. I'd love to see it. So hopefully a bunch of you will come tonight as well. If you go to aiwithkyle.com/webinar, you'll be able to sign up there. And whilst you're there, if you go to the main page, you can also sign up for the newsletter, the community, get a bunch of resources. There are about 8 free courses, which you can get on there, 100 plus playbooks that I've written over the last couple of years, just a whole bunch of stuff. That's all available at aiwithkyle.com. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow.